Today we're comparing our 4 most popular sports touring helmets to see which one is best in our road test. Hey guys, and welcome to our road test guide. We've taken these helmets, our top 4 full face sports touring helmets. We've put them to the test. We're going to see how they hold up and how they stack up. So let me introduce you to them. We have here on the very left the Shark Spartan Carbon, the Arai Profile V, Schui GT Air 2, and then the HTC Arthur 70. So we do have a pretty good mix here of premium and also mid-range helmets in this category, and it should be interesting to see how these hold up. So if you want to see dedicated reviews to each of these helmets, you can check that out on our YouTube channel. We'll go into a lot more depth in that review, but we'll talk a bit generally about the helmets as well today. So for our test, we had our rider take these helmets out same day, one after the other in the same conditions, and so we have a good baseline for our results from our tests. So we have taken a few key measurements, and you'll see these for all the helmets. We have on the left on the white unit a thermometer which is placed on top of the head by the ventilation channels. In the middle up top we have a decibel meter which is placed by the ear, and that's so we can measure exactly how loud a helmet is. On the right we have the wind speed as well, and that means we can accurately compare these helmets. In the middle of the dash we of course have our speed, and just below it is the outside temperature. So that is the objective data that we'll be comparing, but I'm also going to let you know the subjective impression that each of the helmets left on our rider. And speaking of a rider, he was on a BMW GS 1250 adventure bike, and all of the results that we took were taken at 130 kilometers per hour from the highway. We've also tried to make sure that there were no trucks, no big cars around which would impact the results, and we've of course taken averages over time. So guys, that's going to do it. Let's jump into our first helmet, the Arai Profile V. The Arai Profile V comes in at 390 euros or 440 US dollars at the recommended retail price, and this is an improved version of the older Arai Profile helmet. So the Profile V, for some basic specs, it has a composite fiberglass shell. It's going to come in 3 different shell sizes, and it has a double D enclosure system at the bottom of the helmet. Then it's going to have all the features you expect from Arai with their safety. You have the lower mounted VAS visor system. We have the peripheral belt, which will help to expend energy away from your body, and everything that can be caught on something will break off. So now onto our riding test. So we have a few other features on the Profile V, such as an anti-fog pinlock prepared lens, and that lens is provided in the box. There are 2 vents on the top of the visor in order to minimize the amount of weaknesses in the shell of the helmet as well. On the inside the liner is their Eco Pure removable, washable and antibacterial liner, which comes with their facial contour system. This means that there are springs in the cheek pads which will gently press against you for the best fit. So now onto the test, and as we get up to speed you'll see that we have some fairly good stats. Traveling at 130 kilometers per hour, the wind speed was about 125 kilometers per hour, and the outside temperature was around 20 degrees Celsius. Now for our results, our temperature was pretty warm at 27 degrees, and this stayed pretty consistent. So with the vents open we saw a 7-degree difference from the outside temperature, and that shows that the ventilation was fairly weak. Noise was much better though, as we had a result of around 101 decibels, and we'll see how this stacks up a little bit later on. On the road, our rider got the feeling that the Arai was generally good, except for that small issue with the ventilation. They would have preferred a little bit more airflow. The top vent, they said, was fairly weak, and for the rest, the helmet was pretty comfortable and enjoyable. So next up is our HTC Arthur 70 here. It's going to come in about 400 euros, about 450 US dollars at the recommended retail price, and it's going to be for a basic kind of color. Now, this helmet comes with the Premium Integrated Matrix Plus, or the PIM Plus, and it's going to be carbon fiber and fiberglass shell. It's going to be available in 3 different sizes as well. For the rest, we do have emergency quick release cheek pads, you can see them there, and a double D ring at the bottom of the helmet. So the Arthur 70 is a successor of HTC's popular Arthur ST, and due to its PIM Plus shell, it comes in at around 1350 grams in the smallest shell size, making it a fairly lightweight modular helmet. So this helmet comes with an anti-fog pinlock lens in the box, and has a very easy to use visor mechanism, which will have some advantages we'll see later on. So the internal drop-down sun visor has also been anti-scratch and anti-fog treated. Then this helmet uses the removable, washable and antibacterial multi-cool liner from HTC. Then onto our test. The wind speed was about 130 kilometers per hour and the temperature was 20 degrees. So for the inside temperature of the helmet, we got a result of 25 degrees, meaning that there was about a 5-degree difference between the inside and outside temperature, which was fairly good. For sound though, we had a very interesting result of around 97 decibels, which was a very, very low result and was quite surprising. Perhaps this has something to do with that strong visor mechanism I mentioned just before. And while testing this helmet, our rider found that they really liked the Arthur. Noise, ventilation and comfort were all top notch, and it was good to see that shown in our test results as well. Alright, so the Shark Spartan Carbon. This helmet comes in at €370, $420 at the recommended retail price. It is made with carbon. That is the difference between this and the Shark Spartan. There's carbon in the shell, also a mixture of fiberglass as well. So it's going to come in 2 different shell sizes, and we do as well have a double D-ring at the bottom. Now this is the 1.2 version of the Spartan, which has different designs, but mostly it has a different and renewed interior liner. This liner is more comfortable than the previous version, plus it also is going to be removable, washable and antibacterial. We have a pinlock anti-fog lens prepared visor with the lens provided and a drop-down sun visor as well. So the helmet weighs about 1300 grams and has been designed using computational fluid dynamics for the best aerodynamics possible. So when we took the carbon out, we had a small variation in conditions. Temperature outside was still 20 degrees, but the wind speed was around 123 kilometers per hour, so only slightly different. Then the temperature we got in from the ventilation was a chilly 21 to 22 degrees, meaning we had a very slight difference between the outside and inside temperature of the helmet, which indicates a strong ventilation system. Further, we had a reading of around 104 decibels of noise, which was a fairly weak result and much lower than a lot of the other helmets, and that was a little bit of a letdown with this helmet. The feeling that our rider had from the helmet was pretty much what we saw in the test. It had good ventilation but was overall a loud helmet. The liner though, they said, was quite comfortable and the helmet did feel good at speed, which is probably owing back to that computational fluid dynamics testing. Last but not least is the Schui GT Air 2. This helmet comes in about €460 or $600 at the standard recommended retail price, and it's going to be the latest and greatest from Schui in this segment. So it's going to come with the advanced integrated matrix shell, which is a blend of fiberglass and other fibers. It's also going to have 3 different shell sizes. Heading towards the bottom, we see a micro ratchet enclosure system, steel micro ratchet, emergency quick release on the cheek pads, and it is also specifically prepared for the Sena SRL2 communication system. So the visor has been anti-fog pinlock lens prepared, and you do get that lens in the box with this helmet. We do have a drop-down sun visor, and the inner liner is Schui's 3D antibacterial liner, which is removable, washable, and you've probably guessed it, antibacterial. So coming with the helmet is an emergency quick release system as well. In regards to the original GT Air, the GT Air 2 has a longer spoiler, better aerodynamics, renewed ventilation, and a few other little features to generally just improve upon the original's design. On the road at 130 km per hour, we had a wind speed of a very neat 130 km per hour, and the outside temperature had risen to about 26 degrees. So from our instruments, we were able to get fairly consistent results of 27 degrees in the helmet, meaning about 1 degree's worth of difference between the inside and the outside of the helmet. And for the noise isolation, we got a very quiet 97 decibels of sound, making it one of the quietest helmets we tested, which was something that we had expected. When it came to how the GT Air 2 felt, our rider said it was generally good in all areas. They really wanted to mention though how robust the sun visor was. They really wanted to point that out in comparison to the others, which was pretty interesting to note. So now that we've seen all of the tests, it's time to collect that data, put it all together, make some results, and finally a conclusion. Now we've put this all together into a couple graphs for you guys, and let me remind you again that everything was taken at 130 kilometers per hour. So on our first graph here, you see we have the temperature inside the helmet, that's temperature of the ventilation. Then we have the outside temperature and the difference between both. And this is important because that difference is what we're measuring here. That shows how much air actually got into the helmet and how cooling it was. So the lower that number, the better. And in a surprising result, the Shark Spartan Carbon was the best in ventilation, and it was about equal with the Schui GT Air 2. It was then followed pretty closely by the HTC Arthur 70, and coming in last was the Arri Profile V. Now onto our noise isolation results, and because during the test we had pretty stable wind speeds at about 130 kilometers per hour, we know that our results are going to be pretty accurate and fair to compare between the four helmets. So another surprising winner here was the HTC Arthur 70, and this came in at only 97 decibels, and our rider confirmed that the HTC definitely felt like one of the most quiet helmets around, surprisingly so even. Then the Schui GT Air 2 came in at 97 decibels as well, which was a little bit expected as it is a premium helmet. Next we had the Arri Profile V at around 100 decibels of sound, and then coming in last was the Shark Spartan Carbon at 104 decibels, and that just goes to show that with more ventilation, that typically does mean less noise isolation, and that's especially true on helmets not in that premium range. So now that we've seen all of these results, if you're looking to find out more about these helmets, try our website championhelmets.com. We have plenty of designs, and in the product bundles you'll find some great discount on gear like visors and communication systems, so make sure to check those out. Alright, so that's going to be it for our road test of these, our four most popular sports touring helmets. And we had some great results. It was good to see that they all held up pretty well, but we also had some variation between these four helmets. The Schui GT Air 2, for example, was a strong all-rounder, doing what we expected, being great in everything, whereas the Arthur 70 from HTC was a surprisingly quiet helmet, and that was, again, a nice thing to find out. The Shark Spartan Carbon was good in terms of ventilation, weak in terms of noise isolation, whereas the Profile V here was good at everything except for ventilation. So like I said, it was cool to see that variation between the four helmets. Now guys, if you want to go a bit deeper, learn more about these helmets, you can do that by checking out the individual reviews we have for each of these four helmets, and that's on our YouTube channel. Plus, you can also see more guides, more reviews, all that kind of stuff, so make sure you subscribe to us as well. So guys, thanks for watching. I'm Chris from Champion Helmets, and I'll see you all next time.